All right, great. So today on Next Level Up, we're talking with someone who has been building cloud logistics systems before the rest of the industry even saw it as a possible future. Martin Hubert is the CEO of Freightgate, a pioneer in supply chain visibility, freight optimization, and end-to-end logistics digitization. That's a whole word for over 2 decades. If you've ever heard someone say logistics moves too slowly to innovate, Martin is the exception that proves the rule. Martin, great to be with you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited for the conversation today. So let's roll back a little bit. You've been in this industry a long time, and you've seen technology cycles kind of come and go. Before we talk about what you're doing today, just take us back. How did you first land in logistics tech? What were some of those early aha moments as you were seeing the future of the industry lay out in your eyes?
Yeah, yeah, kind of dating myself, but yeah, I was there when it all kind of started, and the whole idea about internet connectivity and so forth really came about when I was in charge of the IT department for a freight company, and we still had to have modems connected to a mainframe that gave our customers the ability to book their cargo and see where the shipments are at. And for
Yeah.
every single new customers the salespeople brought, I had to get a phone line and a modem and a terminal connection and so forth. And as the solution was pretty good, sales was successful in getting new customers relatively
Yeah.
quickly, and waiting for telephone companies certainly wasn't all that desirable either. So, with the internet being in infancies, I got the first Windows-based web server and wrote a program that connected to the terminal, but in a multi-user fashion now. And
Yeah.
we got a dedicated IP because that's the only thing you could get at the time,
Yeah.
and the ISDN dial-up line. And we had permanent internet connectivity because I just had a process that just pinged it and kept the line open instead of disconnecting. And there were no usage charges back in the day. Those weren't cheap, but I mean, it did the job. And
Yeah.
basically, for the price of 3 phone lines, I had a permanent internet connection that could handle many more customers at the same time. And that's kind of how the whole internet thing started. Again, one of my passions is figuring out of the box solutions that make us do things smarter along the way. Always had a knack for that. As a kid, I always watched the MacGyver show. Yeah, so anyhow,
So some
that's
chewing gum and a Hershey bar, and you could stop a nuclear reaction,
oh, don't
basically.
forget the Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, right. Well, of course, the number one tool used. So while you're building, and obviously you started to use that to build out the concept of a cloud-based concept way before we called it a cloud, right?
Yep.
What was the turning point where you could see, like, because I assert when you're making those kind of innovations in industry, at least for me, part of the problem is you're running a little bit ahead of the pack, and they
That
got to
has
kind of catch
been
up. Where
somewhat
was
of our
that?
problem.
Where was that transition point for you?
Well, I mean, from the freight company, I started our own business with 3 PCs and a fractional T1 in the spare bedroom for offering freight companies a way to upload their tracking data via a dial-up modem, and their customers could connect to our servers with a dial-up modem and basically bridge that gap in between by having permanently available internet-based servers back then, even
Yep.
running on Linux and the open source stacks that were available with Apache Web Servers version 1. So yes, all pretty cool stuff. And yeah, so we took it from there, and as we got some traction, people like the idea of being able to encapsulate that and take it away from their legacy systems. And the interfaces were relatively easy to implement. even if you had some mainframe or some RS Unix box from IBM, that's a pretty closed system.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a lot of crazy things, and we normally found a relatively elegant way to connect to that back in the days. And I mean, that kind of spirit has continued ever since. I mean, back in 2000, we were basically the first to launch a freight exchange, and again, unfortunately, slightly too early for the time. Didn't get the traction that was desirable, but the visibility product continued to be accepted. And then some of our customers wanted to utilize a platform that even then was very flexible, nothing compared to where it's now. But I
Yeah.
mean, you could define different views for different roles, and it was multilingual by design out of the gate, just because I mean, I grew up in Europe, and having different languages is kind of a given. And having German connections, I was able to get some German customers, and we got some customers in France. So, and both of those markets really like to see user interfaces in their
Their
languages.
language. Yeah.
So, therefore, having that built basically into the platform, basically day one, certainly was a big plus. And
Yeah.
that whole configurability has translated to what we now have as a Freightgate Logistics Cloud, which is the most flexible system available today and has been, as far as I know, since we started it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so enjoying
It's
the
good.
ride. And
You brought up kind of a point that I talked to some of my junior devs, et cetera. It's like the culture can help set that tone, right? I mean, it's much more culturally accepted and requested in Europe, where in the States, right, the thing is, well, we'll do English and everybody will just, you know, toe the line. Well, not everybody likes that conversation. So it's good
yeah,
you,
and I mean, it just limits you, right? I mean, but
yeah,
even our US-based customers now, they ask, hey, we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people in the warehouse. Can
yeah,
we get the language pack for Spanish so they don't have to guess, and we don't have to do as much training, because warehouse personnel, of course, has a lot of turnover,
yeah,
and reducing the impedance and the beginning and the startup expense in training them and teaching them at least all those English terms that they need to know makes life easier. So
yeah,
again, it's all about reducing friction and making things run smoother.
yeah, 100%. Meet people where they're at. Don't force them to necessarily move to where you want them to be. It's a great theory. So last thing before we move into today, what's going on today? If you were to describe the logistics landscape in that early 2000 range in one or two sentences, what would it be?
Well, you had several sizable players, but it was way more fragmented than it is now. Right now, we are back into, and we've seen, I think, two somewhat consolidation cycles in between, where like big steamship lines had good years and they bought freight forwarding companies. Then, oh, we need to focus on our core competency. They sold the freight companies, and then other conglomerates go bought more forwarding companies. Now you have the DP Worlds and some of the port outfits
Yeah,
buying freight companies and vertically integrate and so forth. Steamship lines kind of regret that they sold them, so now they are buying again. So it's kind of funny to watch, actually.
yeah,
Uh,
right. It's almost you can set your watch to okay, in about 4 or 5 years, it'll just recycle itself.
yeah, it's the 7 year cycle thing, right? The devilish
All right,
7 year
seven is
that thing.
logistics. I got it. I'm in technology, so it always seems a little
But
faster than
yeah, I mean, pace gets a little faster, but I think the
great. And
focus changes, and people just roll with the punches, and yeah, that's it.
my first
We're
call,
we're here
one
to
of the things
help.
I think I love what you said is it was chaos designed or disguised as spreadsheets. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, well,
People love their spreadsheets, man. So let's bring it to today. Freightgate's Universe platform is doing something I think is kind of rare, where you're bringing together procurement, execution, visibility, and carbon measurement into one ecosystem. For
correct.
people who aren't that deep in the logistics weeds, what's the core problem that you're solving today?
Well, a lot of people have like these complex supply chains, and everybody is traditionally looking at it in silos. And instead of like taking a holistic view as to what is it I'm trying to achieve, like I need to get the cargo that is available on XYZ date to this location somewhere else in the world on ABC date, and trying to figure out what is the best, most economical way that potentially is even considering my impact to the environment, because I made a commitment that I want to preserve the world and I'm buying carbon offset for all the tons of carbon emission I create, or just because I at least want to be ready to do that, is a very complex quest. You have different routing choices, so you could route it out of port A or port B. So, I mean, like we helped like one of our customers a little while ago when a steamship line introduced a new loop that went up the coast in China, came down the coast in the US, to find a new routing just by them uploading the different pieces, like the port-to-port rates, the intermodal rates, the drayage rates on both sides of the ocean, and the system found a new routing using this new service from the steamship line to route the cargo 4 days faster, $1,000 a container cheaper.
Hmm.
And I mean, those was not a one-off move. That was a recurring move, 10 containers every 2 weeks. I mean, you
Yeah.
can imagine the savings and how happy they were that they achieved that. I intentionally didn't name them because that was a 3PL and they passed on the 4 days and pocketed the $1,000. But I mean, if you're a beneficial cargo owner and you manage your own contract, you can achieve similar results using the technology, as long as you spread your procurement net a little wider on the onset. And then, of course, with people getting more tech-enabled on the drayage side and on the intermodal side, being able to make API calls to those that are enabled, or having their commitment to at least answer emails or look at portals and enter those rates in a timely fashion, certainly makes the overall process quite efficient, and you can get in seconds answers to very, very complex shipping needs. You can even optimize it against your allocation strategies, the commitments you've made to your carrier partners, and so forth, and find the best routings based on all those different dimensions, and get a multi-echelon optimized routing suggestion that you then can either execute via our platform or via whatever other platform you already have in place. And we adjust the behind the scenes intelligence that help you make that happen.
Yeah, it's great. I think I've been in plenty of places that their supply chain managers will just keep clicking the do again button instead of actually.
Exactly. And I mean, bringing that back to the desk level, or at least extracting it from their decision, actually helps a lot to realize the savings potential you have in the supply chain. Like
Yeah.
one other customer of ours, they had 10,000 parcels a month going out. And they had a hard, if it's this weight, then it goes parcel. If it's over that weight, it goes LTL. But that's actually not true, because the rates fluctuate, and the price breaks vary by distance from your shipping location. They now have two different warehouses and so forth. So those things, you could fulfill it out of warehouse one or out of warehouse number two. So if you
Yeah.
have the intelligence behind the scenes that basically does a cross-mode comparison on the domestic side, parcel versus LTL versus FTL, because sometimes shipping a half-empty truck is cheaper, faster, and safer than paying some LTL fees, depending on what you're shipping and where you're shipping it to.
Yep.
and things like that. Or internationally, comparing LTL versus LCL versus FCL versus air freight rates gives you a lot of different choices that, based on whatever parameters you use, can give you different outcomes. Faster transit times, potentially, inventory in transit, finance charges if you're buying things FOB or ex works, and things like that really make it very easy because we can model those things as part of the optimization process. So the desk level people don't have to do the math because normally they don't have the time or the inclination to go that deep, and they may compare two or three rates, but they're certainly not comparing all the rates that are available.
Yeah, and all the variables. Yeah, I get it. Which is why your system's awesome. Uh, so a lot of logistics tech companies promise integration, but then it stalls out during implementation. I know that was a core competency even from the beginning for you and your team. What's the hardest part of actually nailing that whole kind of true integration, and what is it that people don't understand about it?
Well, what we find is that if you take a step back and look at the process, you can actually uncover additional opportunities instead of just replacing the manual thing. Like in the case of one of our retail customers, they had a warehousing system that didn't communicate well with the TMS. So taking the step back and saying, okay, where is that problem and why do they have to rekey so much information? And then coming up with something where they now just scan the pick card and barcode. The system communicates with their ERP, which is NetSuite,
Yep.
where we have extremely deep integration with. We find all the extra info for their sales order. We find all the for the pieces they picked and so forth. And we can basically calculate the shipping based on the real data from their single version of the truth uh, in real time, and then send the job to the printers to print the shipping labels, and they can live happily ever after and process the next thing. So from taking 20, 30 minutes before the labels came out because somebody had to manually key stuff in and look stuff up and so forth, it's now seamless and elegant and fast, and they achieved like 33% productivity gain.
It's awesome.
So other than that, just think of the tools you need, and then if they're not available, go create them, is what has helped us stay efficient in this game. Being relatively early on, not a lot of tools were available, so we had to create a lot of them ourselves. But now we have a platform that has mapping wizards to ingest email spreadsheets as well as things that are dropped in XML, JSON, or whatever else. And you can create the mappings online and drag and drop them, select them from the lists, you name it, we have it. And being driven by giving flexibility to the users that need to create these things, we always have little widget capabilities that can then execute the appropriate special code. Be it, well, this particular reference number actually has some hidden thing. If it starts with a one, it means it's the yellow stuff, and if it starts with a zero, it's the red stuff, or whatever else. Or empty containers have different starting numbers than full containers, and some crazy things that some legacy systems have.
Yeah.
But you can just go split that off and treat it accordingly as part of your point and click mapping tool. Life isn't all that bad, and you can be reasonably productive in making those things happen. So that's why we created the tools and why it's pretty good to get things done that way.
Awesome. So if you had the proverbial magic wand, is there any one kind of broken system in logistics or global logistics that you want to fix that still hasn't been tackled or is too complex or
Well, global trade runs on predictability and trying to achieve predictable outcomes, right? So if I had a magic wand, I would take some of these off the hip, non-predictable, potentially retroactive things out of the equation rather than because those nobody really has a crystal ball. You can train models
yeah,
to be somewhat precise. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And I mean, we've tried now for decades to predict the weather, and we all know how well that goes, right? So,
we've
and
only
weather
got like
is
40
actually a
models.
factor in supply chain transit times. So, with that said, being able to precisely predict the transit time is close to impossible unless the ocean carriers just like go faster or slower in order to just meet that date and
Yeah,
then the fingers crossed that the port isn't backed up and you have a bunch of dwell time. What you can do is capture those pieces of data and make a best guess. But at the end of the day, yeah, understanding global trade policies and retaliatory actions to things somebody does that can happen any day can screw up your whole procurement strategy because all of a sudden a free trade agreement is canceled and you're subject to insane tariffs
yeah,
compared to having planned for no tariffs at all. And now it would be way more advantageous to source it from another country.
yeah,
So having a system that at least allows you smart sourcing out of different regions, where then potentially some of the political uncertainty gets mitigated, might be a good way to at least keep sane and hedge your bets.
yeah. I got it. And to your point about the weather, it doesn't matter how good your statistical model is. There's no
Yeah.
managing all of it. I mean, it's a great point. Great point. All
So,
right. So
and I mean, we have all this AI stuff, right? And I mean, there are not all the applications that really are suitable for AI. Like, I mean, I see a bunch of like AI startups that want to handle rate management with just AI. If you have contract rates, looking up the contract rate gives you an exact, precise result. Why would you want the AI to go guess? I mean, it
yeah,
just makes no sense whatsoever. So being able to just pre precisely calculate how much it would cost you if you use this routing with these carriers based on your procured RFP vetted contract data will have a very, very strong place. And AI, in order to make like a guess how much would it cost for a new lane that I haven't had any experience in, makes sense. Using it to potentially bring in more people and just read emails that they send in order to get the rates and save the time makes sense. Again, and there's a lot of really cool solutions where AI makes perfect sense, and we do a lot of those things, and we research how to best implement it and so forth. We're probably going to give a natural language query interface to the users that don't want to put specific date ranges in there or whatever else. We've had like quasi AI, just what we call smart date and smart commodity and
right.
smart uh, things like that, that would basically help you just make your queries repeatable easy. So you could just put in like yesterday and it always just finds out yesterday. I mean, there's no AI needed for that. We just programmed it accordingly, right? For commodities, we use some fuzzy logic. Is it this or that or whatever? Or are there exceptions? Again, no real AI needed, but just thinking of how can the user experience be improved by having the system do some of the legwork and be smarter about it. Like now everybody has smart email clients that help you do things more efficiently. Well, again, to your point, like we were slightly ahead of the curve. We had a web-based email client pre-COVID that was basically using the TensorFlow Google natural language engine to read the emails and come up with origins destinations to give you a quick and easy operator way to find the rates that are available for that origin destination and create a quote if you're in sales for a freight company, for example.
Yeah, makes sense. And I like, my dad always used to say, right, if you got a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail. So sometimes it's the right tool, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
So you're bringing us forward to the future. We like to cast that kind of 2 to 3 year net out in the future about for obstacles and opportunities. Obviously, AI is one of the big ones. You already kind of touched on that, but even inside of that, whether it's AI or not, there's certainly different ways for autonomous decision making. Where do you
Correct.
think humans still should be firmly in the loop versus letting the machines run the show?
Well, that is an excellent question, and I mean the line will get blurred even further as the computing power exceeds what we have today. And I mean, according to Moore's law, every 2 years, right?
Doubling, right? Yep.
Our computing power will double. So, I mean, there's lots to be said. I mean, Google is debating sending data centers into space so they don't have to cool them.
Yeah.
The big question at that point is how do they get the data up into space and back down? So I'm going to sit a little bit on the fence trying to
Yeah,
see
right.
if the whole satellite internet thing that Starlink is propagating is fast enough to make that happen
Yeah.
in an orderly fashion. But I certainly wouldn't want to maintain any of those computers at that point. And it's probably just send enough up there so you can just turn them on as you need them and turn off the ones that are broken type approach
Yeah.
uh, from a commodity computing point of view. So I think there's lots of things that the computing power will help us do better, make more intuitive user interfaces and so forth. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game, right? If you run an invoice audit solution, right? If you manually go through very fine codes too with appropriate backend knowledge, you may find a few things that the rule, if it's more than 3% off, approve it, would find otherwise, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, if you have the computing power, you could drill deeper into those 3%. And unlock additional savings. But will how much will you lose and how much will you know you lost is going to be the tricky part, right? I mean, my MacBook now offers email summary and showing me only the emails that it thinks are important.
Right.
Um,
But it
I
only
turned
takes
it
one.
on briefly. I turned it back off because it's not good enough yet.
Yeah.
And I don't want to miss an important email. I mean,
Yeah. It only takes
so
one of those
so
proposed.
it's only one of those. So I mean, I have an executive assistant, so she needs to look at all of those, and she can't use AI yet. I
Yeah.
mean, will it be possible in 3 years? Maybe. I mean, enough people looking at it, we may be able to solve it. I mean, I hope we can use tech to solve some of humankind's problems and cure cancer once and for all, and some of those other ailments. will we be able to be smarter and create enough food so we can cure world hunger?
Yeah.
To be seen. Um, with
Fix.
all the heat, all the AI is producing, how much will that speed up global warming and create even more chaos is another thing we may want to at least consider when we embark on all this, because I mean, everybody swore off on nuclear power plants, and now we're building a bunch of them just so we can feed the AI data centers in an orderly fashion. So, time will tell.
Right, back to the 7 year cycle. Here we go. Right, it just comes,
Yep.
whatever goes around comes around. Yeah, really great. Vlad, one last question. You kind of mentioned the tariffs and other, there are other circumstances that kind of cause potential global disruptions coming in the next couple of years. Do you see anything else that's on the horizon that worries you, or you think is going to be a hurdle that might be a little tough for us to get over? And
Uh, I'm slightly concerned just with the overall global trend to go self-centered and don't care about what happens outside of your borders. I
yeah,
mean, several years ago, we were talking about world economies and so forth, and now it's more me, 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 me. I'm not sure that that's a healthy trend and that will actually get us where we need to be uh, as a world
yeah,
large. Um, so, yeah, too much authoritarian regimes doing too many weird things is definitely a concern. I think that cannot be completely ignored.
yeah. Clear. I'm with you. Like even China and India is still only one eighth of the world. Like you're still sharing the planet with a lot of people. Like probably
Yeah,
not
and I
probably not
mean,
the best thing to put the blinders on and be
and,
myopic.
and I mean, the Chinese are known for being very deliberate in most of their things and taking a way longer view. They invest in a lot of areas in the world where um, they now are deeply entrenched and eventually will seize at least economic control to a certain degree, and making sure that the world stays somewhat balanced, because I mean they're certainly not non-authoritarian, will be will be a challenge.
All right. I really appreciate the time ever since I did a little bit of logistics work for Eaton in the States, who does truck part shipping all over the place. Logistics has always kind of had a little place in my heart, and love to see what you've done with Freightgate. Can't wait to see what the future looks like. Thanks for coming
Appreciate it.
with.
Well, thanks so much for having this conversation, and keep me posted.